there's a few things that you can think about now that might help. When you have a minor chord that goes up a half step to a major chord, you have one possibility, right? That's the 3 chord going to the 4 chord. Now, when you have a major chord going up a whole step to a minor chord, you have 2 possibilities. It could be the 1 chord going to a 2 chord, or the 5 chord to the 6 chord, right? And you could continue that, like a minor chord that goes up a whole step to a minor chord is the 2 to the 3. There's no other possibility because there's only 3 minor chords in the progression in the harmonized scale, and so 2 of them side by side. It's it's really clear what it is. Same with major chords, and for the same reason, there's 3 major triads, just like there was 3 minor triads, and so if one goes up a whole step to another, it's got to be 4 to 5. The only ones I left out were the 7, which is a minor 7 flat 5, so that's clear. That's an easy one. You see a minor 7 flat 5, and you know it's 7 chord, and this, yeah. Now, if you don't have the luxury of seeing that that it's got a 7 in it, so all you see is, like, let's say we're in the key of G and you've got an F sharp diminished triad going to a G, it's pretty safe to assume that's 7 to 1 because the 7 chord, actually, I mean, that's probably the way it'll be heard, because it does, the 7 chord is the only one that has a diminished triad, and so it going up a half step is the same relationship as the 7 chord to the 1 chord. However, if you look at it in a bigger context, beyond 2 chords, it still should be fairly clear, but because the diminished triad doesn't tell you what kind of 7 it is, it has, if you move it symmetrically in diminished thirds, like, a whole step and a half step combined, 3 half steps, if you move it around in that way, then it becomes a fully diminished chord, not a half diminished chord, and you change one note, that means that could be a 7 chord from another key somewhere else. So yeah, this stuff is really, really cool. I find it to be really exciting, fun. It's definitely the kind of thing that you can talk about more than once. Like, we need reminders on it because it's weird, abstract stuff. So do you have any questions about that so far? All right, well, how about this? Let's try out, let's try coming up with some progressions and some ideas. And we'll think about navigating around a little bit. So this will maybe be a little bit more creative, and I don't know what'll happen any more than you do. So let's pick a key to start in. Let's say the key of G, because that's what we talk about a lot. So let's say I'm gonna write a progression here. So what I'm gonna do is I've got a piece of paper. Do you happen to have a piece of paper? All right, nice. I'm going to just divide my staff into 4 measures, just to kind of keep this clean. And I'm gonna see where this takes me. Since I'm in the key of G, like if I were gonna do a jazz context, maybe I start off with a 2-5-1. I mean, that's cliche as can be. I probably wouldn't do it myself, unless I wanted to really go out of my way to try to take a cliche thing and make it different somehow. If I were in a rock or funk, blues, well, maybe blues, maybe not. Maybe it would have it start with a dominant chord instead of a major triad, or a major triad that would be implying a dominant. So we'll leave that one out for a moment. But like in most contexts, you're going to start with the 1 chord, And again, unless it's a jazz, you might very well have a 2-5-1 in the beginning. But still, I think most of them probably start with a 1 chord. But we're going to do that. So I'm going to, above my staff, I'm going to put a G chord. All right, so I got a 1 chord here. All right. All right, and then let's see here. So from that G minor, or sorry, G major, I'm going to go to a B minor for one measure. All right, yeah, so I went from the 1 chord to the 3 chord. Next, I'll go back to the G major for one measure. And then I'll go to the 7 chord, which will be, I'm going to do a half diminished chord, F sharp, yep, F sharp minor 7, flat, yep, better title this, progression lesson. Okay, now right now I've got this G, B minor, and back to G, F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Okay, now in my mind I'm thinking I've got this motion now, right? And on my B string, or my low E string is going, right? So it might be a pretty normal thing to go to the E minor chord, right? Because you'll have this. I'm not going to do that though. I'm not going to go to the E minor, but I'm going to play an E note with my E string. And so I'm going to do a C chord, but I'm going to do a C over E. Cool? So it's a C chord, but it's an inversion, right? First inversion. Cool? All right. Now, I'm going to play. There's a couple ways you can look at this. I'm going to look at it as a D minor triad. That's the way, the kind of the way to look at a chord. Well, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. A person could look at this chord, a D minor. Now I'm doing first inversion, so I have an F in my low note. All right. So I've got the first fret of the E string, third fret of the D string, second fret of the G string, and third fret of the B string. Exactly. It looks like an F triad with a 13. So you could actually see this as an F13. And the reason I'm saying I'm looking at it as a D minor, which would be that's probably the first way to look at it really, is because if it's if it's a D minor, then it's all chord tones. And so it's more likely you'll perceive it to be that tonally, like just with the ear. As guitar players, we hold this and go, oh, that looks like my shape that I know that's an F chord, but with a 13, right? So if we're kind of really living in the realm of the ear here, that's going to sound like a first inversion D minor chord, I would say. Now, because the low note is an F, we do have a root and third of an F chord. It's, you could see where it would come off as that way, but it's got this note, which would be a 13. I would say it's more likely to be heard as a D minor because then it's all chord tones as opposed to an F13, But you could look at it either way, and depending on the way you look at it, maybe it'll change the way you're reharmonizing. Let's say reharmonizing. We're sort of harmonizing the future. Because you see this D minor, which is what I'm going to write right now. I'm writing pencil maybe, by the way, so I'll erase it if I change my mind on something. But D minor over F is what I'm putting here now. This is the moment we've changed key, right? Because D minor shouldn't exist in the key of G. Right. But here's the sound, right? I've got this G, B minor, G, F minor 7 flat 5 to E, and then to this. So that's the key change. I'll do G, I think it sounds nice. It doesn't sound finished, but we go, oh, that's a little interesting. All right. Now, the way I saw it in my mind, the reason what my thought process that led me to D minor in the first place was I thought, okay, well, I got the 7 chord that was gonna go to a 6 chord, but instead went to the 4 chord, first inversion. And now I'm on my 4 chord, which is a C, and I go, well, if I go up to the 5 chord, that'd be D, right? Which actually does have, the fact that we're going to a D has an interesting quality to it, and it's that we have this line that's getting lower and lower. G, F sharp, E, and then D, right? Now, if I had a lower string, maybe I would do that. But because I ran out of notes with the E, I just went back up a fret instead of going up a flat 7th. You know what I mean? Be kind of a big leap upwards, even though it would only be like a small step downwards, a whole step downwards. So instead, I just went up a half step to the first inversion. And my thought process was, what if that C is the 4 chord, the D would be a 5 chord. What if that C weren't a 4 chord? What if it were a 5 chord or a 1 chord? Now, either way, if that C is a 1 chord or a 5 chord, the D minor would be valid, right? Like if it's a C is a 1 chord, the D minor would be a 2 chord. If the C it was a 5 chord, because we're just doing triads, then the D would be a 6 chord. Exactly. All right. So